Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Just wanted to tell a story today. I got some news that bummed me out a little bit on social media from a friend of a friend kind of deal, that someone I had grown up with had died. And even though they didn't die just yesterday, the news is new to me. And I was just like, oh man. So I was thinking about this guy, and his name was Paul. I just called him Skinhead Paul, just because I knew more than one Paul. It's always nice to give somebody a nickname to know which one you're talking about. I've known so many Tonys, so you got to give every Tony a nickname. Some of these Tonys don't want to hear the nicknames we're giving them, but you got to know which one we're talking about. So it's Skinhead Paul. Nobody likes Skinhead Paul. Have you ever had one of these friends where you're the only one who likes him? Nobody liked this guy. Nobody. He was notoriously hated. People were scared of him, tolerated him. Some people really hated him and hunted him. He had a lot of enemies. Oh my God, Paul had so many enemies. And I was probably one of his only friends. I grew up with him. I can't tell you how many times people have asked me, why are you friends with this guy? What the fuck are you hanging out with a guy like that for? And I've never had an answer. Now, me and Paul were never tight. We were never ride or die homeboys. We were never like in the same clique, but I knew him since I was 10 years old. We went to school together. That's how I first met him. When I first met Paul, he was like a school bully, and he got in fights and he would pick on me. One day in class, he grabbed my pencil. We were just getting ready to take a quiz. We got our paper and our pencil out, and the teacher's walking around handing out quizzes, and people are passing the quizzes down the line. Paul's sitting right by the window. I'm sitting next to Paul. He grabs my pencil, and I didn't have any other pencils. He grabs my pencil and throws it out the window. And then he grabs my backpack and throws my backpack out the window. And he's getting ready to grab my paper and throw that out the window too. And the teacher saw him and caught him. And I had to go and get my backpack, and it was just a hassle. But he would do stuff like that. He took my mittens. I had my mittens. I was standing on the bus stop one day out in the wintertime. We all used to take the subway together, the public transportation together. And DC has a pretty decent public transportation system, fairly safe. And kids from all age groups would take it. We were always on those buses and subways. We'd go in groups. Nobody would ever mess with us. This was back before pedophile days. Adults and kids, we were in our own little worlds. We never fucked with adults. Adults never fucked with us. It's two different worlds, two different planes of existence. And I'm standing on the bus stop one day, and it's wintertime, and Paul grabbed my mittens off of because they were clipped onto my jacket, and he throws them into the street, and he's like, "You want your gloves? Go get them." I flipped out. I went berserk. I grabbed Paul, threw him on the ground, jumped on his chest. I'm like kneeling on his chest, and just start throwing punches. Now, I had never really been in a fight before. I didn't know how to throw any punches, so I'm sure I didn't even bruise him. But I scared Paul, and he went out. I got up off him, and I said, "Now get my gloves, or get my mittens." And he got them for me, and we became friends. That day that I beat Paul up was the day we became friends. From that day forward, he loved me. Something about beating a guy up, putting him in his place. Show the people who the alpha is. Really makes a difference. It did with Paul. I was friends with Paul from that day, probably till the rest of his life, I guess. Every time I saw this motherfucker, it was bad news. I don't have a single story of Paul where we had a good time and it was like somehow cool. It was always fucked up. It was always fucked up. I was on a date. It was probably ninth grade. I got a date with this chick that I really liked, this chick Jessica. She was new in school, and a lot of other dudes liked her. Me and this buddy of mine, Darnell, were kind of racing to see who could get Jessica first, and I got her. And this was my first date with Jessica. And we went to the movies. Out front, there's some commotion between some people, and I notice, sure enough, it's Paul, and he's getting ready to get in a fight with somebody. For some reason, I go over to see if I can calm Paul down. As soon as I get up to eyesight of Paul, he sees that I'm there, and he says to the guys that he's getting ready to get in a fight with, "Oh, now you're fucked. My homeboy Sky is here. Now you guys are fucked. Now it's an even fight." And he's just exploded with confidence because I'm there. I look over to see who he's getting ready to fight with, and it's this guy, Josh Flood and Anthony Jenkins. And both Josh and Anthony were big football player guys, junior varsity football, but they were big, much bigger than me and Paul. And they were friends of mine, good friends of mine. I hung out with them more than I hung out with Paul. I liked them more than I liked Paul. They look at me just like, "Sky, what the fuck? Whose side are you on?" They're confused as shit. All of a sudden, this is just like, what the hell's going on? I was just like, "Hey, you have at him." You know, and I walked off. Paul was like, "You're not going to have my back?" I was on a date. What am I supposed to do? You know, you got yourself into this one, buddy. And Paul got his ass whooped that night. But it definitely made me look bad because my friends grilled me the next day. "What the fuck you hanging out with that guy for? You were going to take that guy's side against us." And I'm just sitting here explaining, "Dude, I walked up. I just bought my ticket and I'm getting, you know, I don't know. I have no excuse. Sorry." When we were a little bit older in high school, Paul wanted to join the Skinhead gang in DC, the DC Skins. Now, the Skinhead gang in DC is not a racist gang. There's two different types of skinheads. There's the Nazi kinds, the ones that you see on like the movie American History X, which is a good movie, or like you've seen in documentaries or something. And then you have the non-racist skinheads, the anti-racist skinheads, and they all look the same. You won't be able to tell any difference of them. And they hate each other, and they fight each other at concerts or wherever. They schedule rumbles or whatever they do. And I mean, it's kind of like Crips and Bloods. It's a rather silly scene. But Paul was desperate to join that shit. If you're into punk rock music, Henry Rollins from Black Flag, he was a DC Skin. Minor Threat, great band, Minor Threat. Ian MacKaye was the lead singer of that. He was a DC Skin. So, you know, whatever. Just a little history. The leader of the DC Skins was a black woman by the name of Lefty. And she's worth mentioning. She was big, looked like Suge Knight, covered in tattoos, big size 15 Doc Martens, and she was notorious. Motherfuckers from New York down to North Carolina, they all knew about Lefty. Lefty was notorious. You didn't even have to be in the punk or skin world. Everybody knew Lefty. There were certain people that stood out in the streets that had these mega reputations. My brother was one of them. But Lefty was also in there. I mean, I could name a few from back in those days, and Lefty was like famous. Black chick, skinhead. She'd fuck you up. She loved fighting. It's just funny. And Paul was desperate to join that group, and he tried so hard, he got hazed. And I guess there's a period of hazing. I don't know how it works, but the first time he approached him, they beat him up and took his boots, took his Doc Martens, left him bloodied, half knocked out, and he had to go home with no shoes. The next time he tried to crash their scene was down in Georgetown by the canals, and they had a little hangout where all the punks and the skinheads and random people would hang out and get high and whatever. And you could see 50 people down there. It was a popular spot. It was really secluded. The canal is disgusting. It's just this like moat. It's like a gutter. The water never moves. It's got this film, like this oily green kind of film over it. The canal in Georgetown's gross. At least it used to be. And Paul goes down there. Long story short with it, they weren't going to accept him again, so they beat him up again and injected him with heroin. His eyes are rolling in the back of his head. He's fucking wigging out, throwing up, and they toss him into the canal, leave him for dead. Somehow, because Paul was a fucking scrappy little motherfucker, he was a tough guy, he survived and didn't take it personally. He's just like, I gotta join, love the DC Skins. Eventually, they let him join. It was the happiest day of his life. I saw him on the bus one day. I had this cool Cutlass Oldsmobile. It was getting painted. I got in an accident. It was getting painted. It was all gold, kind of sparkly gold. And I didn't have a ride to get there, so I needed to fucking get my car because it was done being painted. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna take the bus down there. On the bus, I see Paul. I get on the bus, the fucking passengers on the bus are scattered like the fucking Red Sea. They're parted. Paul's sitting in the middle of the bus, and the people on the back of the bus are kind of wedged in, crushed into the back, and the people in the front are pushing up against the driver. The driver's terrified. He's sitting there sweating, doesn't know what to do. Paul's sitting in there with this little miniature bat, like the kind you get at a baseball game, little novelty bat, little tiny Louisville slugger. And he's hitting the seats, hitting the walls, just sitting there being a knucklehead. I get on the bus and I'm like, the fuck are you doing? I go sit down next to him and he's excited to see me as usual. We have our little reunion. He pulls out a joint. He's like, I got this joint. I got a couple beers in my backpack. He's like, let's get off the bus and, have a little reunion. So I was like, all right, I don't have far to go. Let's get off here. So we get off. Walking down 16th Street, middle of the day, DC. Smoking a joint, passing it back, drinking these warm beers. We walk over this little bridge, overpass thing. There's cars going down below. And he takes a couple sips off his beer, doesn't like how warm it is, and throws it as hard as he can down off the overpass at the cars going down below. Hits a car. I look over the overpass, he hits a fucking cop car, god damn it. And the cop car, this cop is freaked out. He's looking around, he's pulled over, his car is wedged off the side of the road, and he's looking up, he sees both me and Paul. This cop goes berserk. He's trying to scamper up the fucking side of the hill to come after us. Paul goes running off, laughing. I'm like, what the hell did you do that for? I'm just standing there, like, what the fuck? Paul's running that way. This fucking fat cop is trying to climb up this hill best he can, coming this way. And I was just like, God damn it. Luckily, a bus comes to the bus stop. I can jump on the bus and go. Another time I saw Paul, this will be the last one I tell you. I have a million stories like this. Every time I saw the motherfucker, it was bad news. I don't know why I was friends with him. Another time I saw him, we had a little reunion. I always just see him random places. I saw him out at a burger stand, and he's eating, and I'm eating. And so we eat together. How you doing? Whatever, what's going on? And he's telling me his little drama, bullshit-ass story. Always going through drama. As you can imagine, a guy like that would. And he's like, yo, I just went and bought a little bag of Love Boat. Love Boat in DC, that's slang for DC. It's weed laced with PCP. So you could get a little dime bag of Love Boat, and it's just PCP. Smells terrible. And one hit, you smoke a joint, you take one hit, you're wasted. So he's like, let's go smoke this shit. I was down. I used to love PCP. PCP was my favorite drug. I don't know if you ever had a favorite drug. PCP was mine, my favorite. We go down to the woods behind the burger joint, into the woods to smoke this shit. It's the middle of the day. We're cruising through the woods. This is Rock Creek Park, middle of DC. We find this old building. Paul's like, oh man, I come here often. This is a cool spot. We're safe here. And I was like, you sure, man? Let me see what's up with this building. And he was like, nah, this is cool. I come here all the time. This is totally cool. And I was just like, all right, I don't know what was going on with the building, but you say it's cool, it's cool. We're smoking this PCP, getting stoned as fuck out of our gourds. And like 4 hours later, I realized, I gotta go. We stumble out of the fucking woods around the front of the building. The building's a police station. Park police, those are feds. It's active. There's cops everywhere. It's an active police station full of goddamn police. And we sat there and smoked PCP on the backside of it for 4 hours. I don't know why I was friends with Paul. I don't know why I was sad when I heard that he died. But rest in peace, Paul.